Did Sun and Lapidus shack up? Was Locke only mostly dead? And did Desmond have a bulletproof carton of milk with him? We'll have answers to those questions and more in today's official Lost audio podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another round of our podcast. We're here today with executive producers Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse to rehash the episode Dead is Dead and take a look at our upcoming episode, Some Like It Hoth, which airs Wednesday, April 15th at 9 p.m., followed by a brand new episode of The Unusuals. Don't forget that you can submit your questions, ponderings, musings, and other thoughts for Damon and Carlton at blogs.abc.com/asklost. Here now are Damon and Carlton.
Hello, Damon.
Hi there, Carlton.
How are you today?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm good.
What are you up to these days?
We are leaving this podcast to go over, and we're going to look at the first assembly of the entire finale together.
So the finale has been shot.
It's been shot. It's been loosely edited in the sense that basically all the scenes are cut in some form or another. They're all going to be put together, and so we're going to actually... We've seen some scenes from the finale, but we have not actually watched the editor's assembly of all the scenes from beginning to end. So that's going to be very exciting to see, how it's planned.
And we're going to do that with Mr. Jack Bender, who is the director of the finale.
Yes.
We very rarely get to spend time with because he's in Hawaii and we're here.
The other thing which is fun is at the end of the season, our three main editors, Steve Semmel, Mark Goldman, and Chris Nelson, all collaborate on the finale. So it's kind of this...
It's like Voltron. They all form
yes,
sort of a giant robot editor.
I know. But it's great because they're all really talented artists in their own right, and sort of everyone works very collaboratively, throws their notes in, and it's kind of a fun and crazy process of actually putting the finale together.
Right. So it's essentially a 2-hour movie, and
right.
It will be completely edited within 2 weeks.
Crazy.
Less than 2 weeks.
That's insane.
But we took out a little time to talk about Dead is Dead, which is an episode. Obviously, we've been doing a lot of storytelling in Dharma times. In last week's episode, we didn't get to see any of those Dharma folks at all, except for that photograph that Sun is hauling around. Instead, choosing to follow the continuing adventures of resurrected Locke, Ben, Sun, Lapidus, and I guess from the looks of things, the Smoke Monster.
I have one burning question about this episode. Were Lapidus and Sun shacking up in Dharmaville?
That's a great question, because when Ben enters, Lapidus sort of emerges from another room with his shirt half unbuttoned.
Pretending like, oh, I was in the other room. I wasn't basically,
right.
doing whatever with Sun.
I'm going to say no. Lapidus and Sun like each other just as friends.
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say they secretly were shacking up.
Okay, well, that's an interesting and well, let's just leave it an interesting theory. But as far as burning questions go, I think that Ben basically...
I'm sorry, there's a burning question better than that one?
This is the real burning question.
Okay.
So Ben Linus has proven himself to be completely untrustworthy on almost every level. When he first wakes up and he sees Locke's over his bed, he basically says, "Oh, hey, Locke, I'm not surprised. I was totally expecting you to come back to life. And here's a really good explanation for why I killed you. And I've come back to the island to be judged because I feel like I broke the rules by turning the wheel." But by the end of the episode, we have a slightly different story from Ben. That story is that I came back to the island because I feel guilty about my daughter being killed as a result of a decision that I made. But more importantly, he tells Sun, "I'm completely flabbergasted that Locke is still alive. I've never seen anything like this before in my life," thus the title of the episode, Dead is Dead. So the question becomes, who is Ben telling the truth to? Are we to believe that he's never seen a resurrection before?
Ben is an amazing liar and a pathological liar, and so it's hard to believe anything he says. But I have to say that the sincerity with which he posited that he's never seen anything like that before, and his genuine sort of consternation over Locke's resurrection leads me to believe that he's telling the truth in that situation, that he really was extremely surprised that Locke is up and walking around. It was not anywhere in his bandwidth of expectations.
Is it possible that Locke was only mostly dead?
Yeah, could be. I mean, it's confusing to me why and how it is that Locke is up and walking around if we have never seen anybody else resurrected on the island. Like, I don't quite understand how that works.
Well, knowing this show, you'll never explain it to us, Carlton. So let's just move on. Something very else I think that people were probably wanting us to talk about on the podcast in terms of what happened at the end of this episode is we are now looking perhaps slightly at this woman Alana in a different way. When Lapidus returns back to help the Ajira folk, they in Grand Lost tradition are not ready to embrace him. He experiences something very different, which is this woman Alana asks him a question.
Can I ask you this question, Damon? Do
Yes.
you know what lies in the shadow of the statue?
I don't know what lies in the shadow of the statue, which is probably why you're going to
Can I hit you in the head
Yeah,
now
exactly.
with a rifle butt?
Again, the moral of the story here is always take a guess. If you
Exactly.
if you don't know the answer to a question,
Why didn't he just take a shot at it?
just take a guess.
Exactly.
He might have gotten it right.
Kind of like thought, rubbed his chin, little like hairy chin, and gone, Jacob, maybe? I don't know.
I would have said sand, and then she would have said, technically you're right, but
Boom.
that is not the answer
Boom.
I'm looking for. Boom. Which wouldn't have been as dramatic. Here, though, Carlton, the final thing worth discussing. Desmond, carrying a bag of groceries. Ben shoots the milk. Apparently, though, the milk, from what I understand, considering cops do not wear milk-proof vests, that bullet has probably permeated the milk. Yes.
It wouldn't be milk-proof, would it? It would be a bullet-resistant milk carton?
Yeah, a bullet. Okay, since
They don't wear bullet-resistant milk cartons.
Yeah, since they don't wear those, one would posit. We see Desmond.
That's a great episode title, by the way. The bullet-resistant milk carton.
That should have been what we called the
I don't know
season ender.
why we didn't call it.
Now we ended up
That's
with the fork
it,
and the
exactly.
outlet.
The bullet-resistant milk carton would have been a great... Well, it's too late now.
It is too late. Is Desmond okay? We see him beating the hell out of Ben. He comes to Penny's rescue, but he's been shot. Are we? What's up with that? Is he going to be all right?
Well, look, I was very happy to see that he beat the crap out of Ben and threw him in the water, but I'm not that happy about Desmond's condition. I'm a little worried about him.
Wow. So it's not one of those typical moments on Lost where somebody gets shot and like the next episode they're fine.
Well, that's because they're on the island. Okay?
Oh.
The island has healing powers.
That's a good-
I'm not sure that the same is the case for Marina Del Rey or wherever they are.
That is a noble distinction. A little prehashing.
Okay, some like it Hoth.
Some Like It Hoth. Our first.
Would that be a reference to...
Don't even say it.
Okay,
If you know what it's a reference to.
okay.
This is an episode that we are particularly proud of. The show needed just a little bit of fun, a little
Yes.
fun injection.
Yes.
Not that the stakes aren't high, but considering where we're going after this episode into the intensity of the finale and coming out of an episode where Ben is basically almost strangled by his dead daughter and she says that she will kill him if he does not follow Locke. We just needed a little bit of brevity.
Little levity.
Yeah. Brevity or levity?
Levity.
Brevity
is
is
short.
shortness.
Yeah, levity is humor.
Well, what if it was brevity? So it's just you get to the humor very quickly.
Let's
That's
get
really
to
all we have to
questions.
say. Let's do it,
All
Carlton.
right, Damon. I'm going to start today.
I wish you
Chris,
would.
ready for questions?
Here we go.
This is from Allie in Richmond, Virginia. Damon, Carlton, I have to ask you, if you were Sawyer, Kate, or Juliet,
If I were Sawyer,
would you choose Kate or Juliet?
that's a great question. If I were Sawyer, I would not choose either one of them. I would go
Wow.
out to various nightclubs and stand around and allow myself to be surrounded by women.
Yeah.
Because,
You'd-
you know.
A lot of cougars.
Right, exactly. Yes, I would have a very hard time choosing.
In a somewhat related question, Isaiah in Oregon City, Oregon would like to know, will Kate marry me?
The answer to that one is no.
Yeah. Pretty sure Evangeline or Kate.
Yeah.
Either incarnation.
No, I don't want to hurt your feelings. We'll just say she's a fictional character. And
Awesome.
Carlton,
Yes.
speaking of Kate, there is definitely some chemistry between Kate and Roger Linus. Kate initials are KA for Kate Austin. Rogers are RL for Roger Linus. Put together KARL. That spells Carl. Does this mean that these two are going to give birth to Carl?
Oh my God! If only
Answer the question,
If only
Carlton.
we had thought. Okay, people ask us sometimes, like, is there anything that ever gets pitched that you wish you did on the show? And the answer is, now there has been something pitched that I wish we did on the show. But sadly, Carl has come and gone, and it's really impossible, even with the vehicle of time travel to retcon that he is the son of Roger and Kate, but it's kind of a genius idea.
That would be a Rhett Carl.
A Rhett Carl, yes. Exactly.
All right, next question.
Okay, all right. Edward Frisco from Texas. It's just frickin' Texas. It's like not like it's a small place, Edward. You might have put a town.
Do you think there's like an Edward Dallas who lives in San Francisco?
Or there's a Tex Edwards who lives in Frisco.
All right. Okay, what's the question?
Damon, why did some items disappear and others didn't when individuals were shifting through time? Boats did not disappear as well as some other items that were clearly from other times. Like the Zodiac, what's up with all that? What are the rules of that?
I think the characters have discussed what the rules are, and what they came up with is pretty much the same thing that we've come up with as writers, which is when the initial flash happened, that is, when Ben first turned the donkey wheel, if you were touching something, for example, you were holding on to a jar of peanut butter, or you were in a Zodiac, or wearing your clothes, then whatever you were physically in contact with came with them. Right. And was with that group for any flashes subsequent to that. So the Zodiac Faraday was riding in the Zodiac along with Frogurt and some others at the time of the initial flash, and therefore every time that the sky flashed beyond that point, the Zodiac would actually move with them. Although when they returned to the beach, it appears that somebody has taken the Zodiac. But if they're not touching something, objects from other times do not travel with them. So,
what about dead bodies?
Well, Charlotte does not travel.
Interesting.
Does not travel with Faraday when the final flash occurs. But who knows? There might be different properties because that was a wheel-related flash too.
Right.
So when Locke moves the wheel again and everything returns back to the way it should be, they haven't really postulated on the rules there. But we also know that when Alpert gives Locke the compass, which is something that Locke gave to Alpert back in 1954, Locke is able to bring that compass with him. So you can bring objects from other time periods with you as long as you are in physical proximity to them.
Right. I mean, it was on, he had it. It was on his person.
We have now presented to you what it took us almost 11 hours in the room to decide.
11 hours would be a vast understatement.
A little peek behind the curtain there. Damon and Carlton, asks Sam Viner from Minnetonka, Minnesota. I understand that whatever happened, happened, but let me play devil's advocate for a moment. If Jack had worked on Little Ben and been able to save him, would he become a different person, like a good guy, or would he have still grown up to be the monster that he is? Would you not agree that since Jack decided not to save Ben, as he hoped he would die, he really caused the things to happen that he desired to stop, that he indirectly pulled the trigger, blew up the boat, and locked himself in the Hydra?
I actually spent a summer in Minnetonka, and it was fantastic. It's Lake Minnetonka. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful lake. It's near Minneapolis. A lot of speed boating. You can actually take a boat to bars. And what was your question?
The question is it possible that Jack actually caused Ben to become Ben by deciding not to help him?
I think that basically, the way you have to think about it is there was a course of events, and maybe it was always preordained that Jack would decline to do the surgery, and that was part of the course of things, in the same way that Kate was destined to take young Ben to the others. And I think the question of whether these events are kind of intrinsically a part of fate and destiny, or whether they are alterable, is a question that the characters are now starting to really wrestle with. What is changeable, and how do our interactions cause things to change, or just cause a different permutation of the same result? I mean, Desmond tried to save Charlie many times from dying. He didn't get shot with an arrow, but on the other hand, Charlie still drowned in the Looking Glass station. So was that a course of his timeline that he could never alter? I think it's a very good question. I think the show will be addressing your question with more specificity as we move forward.
That's why I asked it.
Damon, I've got a good question for you here.
Please let it not involve time travel.
It does not involve time travel.
Yes, go.
Okay. Dear Damon and Carlton, this is from Kevin M. up in Montreal, Quebec. I just bought my very first Dharma Initiative jumpsuit from ABC.com, and let's just say I get all the ladies at the costume parties. I just kind of have this picture of there being this vast array of costume parties up in Montreal, and Kevin is just totally scoring. That's
okay,
fantastic.
he's getting all the ladies.
But anyway, I just want to ask if your plan for the end of Lost will be heartwarming or heartbreaking, perhaps even a bit of both. If that question will give away more than you want to, then please answer this. If you could be a character on Lost, who would you be and why? Thanks.
To answer the first part, we're going for heart-stopping. In all the right ways.
That's good.
And to answer the second part, if I could be any character on the show, I think that I would be Locke. I'm in a Locke frame of mind right now.
Yeah.
And as you might have noticed, I'm losing all my hair. So why not embrace it?
Locke is very cool this year. He's a badass guy.
He is. Who would you like to be, Carlton? And why?
Neil Frogert, because if I was shot with a flaming arrow, then I wouldn't have to
work on the finale.
Work on the finale.
Okay, that can be arranged. Carlton, Rob, from I think it's pronounced Worcester, Massachusetts.
Worcester, yeah.
Worcester, even though there are many letters in there that are not pronounced. Like
I've been to Worcester too. Worcester's a nice place as well.
We're going to do the Carlton travel show after this.
Like, what's that guy's name? Rick? Steve?
You can find another partner for that podcast. Ben, Carlton, how exactly did Ben outgrow his need for glasses? Did the island cure him? Does he use Dharma brand contact lenses? Or did Jacob give him LASIK?
I'm going to basically say that Ben has a mild astigmatism and a certain amount of farsightedness, and his need for glasses is fairly minor. He benefits by using them, but simple vanity and practicality in the island actually limits the amount of time that he spends wearing his glasses. In the privacy of his own cabana, he would wear his glasses, perhaps, but he can get along without them.
That is probably the most comprehensive answer you've ever given on this podcast, and I, on behalf of the entire listening community, salute you.
Wow.
Final question.
Okay, final question. Hi, Damon and Carlton. My question is, if Damon and Carlton were ever to show up on Lost as characters, who would play them? I was thinking Ron Perlman as Carlton.
Uh-oh, I don't even want to know the other.
And for Damon, that guy Danny Goki on American Idol. Or maybe Crispin Glover.
Wow.
Any thoughts? Not that it would ever happen, but it's fun to live in the land of hypotheticals, don't you think? And this is from John Burrell from Framingham, Massachusetts. Not a particularly flattering series of choices that he's postulating.
I don't know.
Oh, Danny Goki is pretty good.
Yeah, and I think Crispin Glover is handsome in a I'm totally crazy kind of way.
Yeah.
Personally speaking, Ted Danson, I think, would play Carlton.
That would be good. Yeah, I actually have. I've been mistaken for Ted Danson and, strangely, Bill Walton.
And I've been mistaken for.
I think Bill Walton. It'd be cool to have Bill Walton as Carlton Cuse on Lost.
In my pre-ball days, I was mistaken for Matthew Broderick, and now that I've lost my hair, David Cross is what I've been.
One of my favorite Damon stories
is a fine line between the two.
We were in a restaurant in Hawaii. We were coming out of this restaurant, and this guy comes up to us and says to Damon, "You're David Cross, aren't you?" And he goes, "No, I'm sorry, he's not." And he says, "You are David Cross. Yeah. You're lying to me. Yeah. You liar. You're a liar." And got really agitated.
So somewhere out there's someone who really hates you, David Cross, and it's my fault, but I just simply could not claim to be you. Maybe someone's come up to David Cross and said, "What's the monster?"
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it was the same guy.
Exactly.
So on that note, guys,
well,
we will not be seeing you next week.
We'll be in finale editing,
but we will come back to rehash Some Like It Hoth and prehash our 100th episode, which happens to be titled The Variable. All right, see you guys.
That's it for this edition of the podcast. Join us again in a week or so when we come back to rehash our upcoming episode, Some Like It Hoth, and take a look at the 100th hour of Lost. Some Like It Hoth airs Wednesday, April 15th at 9 p.m., followed by a brand new episode of The Unusuals, only on ABC.